Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Chapter 6, Lesson 4, Proving a Quadrilateral is a Parallelogram. So our main objective is to understand the rules that will help us to decide is the quadrilateral a parallelogram. So here are the rules that I have written. You can pause the video here and read all the rules, but let me explain you one by one. So first of all, we are going to decide about the sides and the diagonals, how the sides of any quadrilateral or the diagonals of the quadrilateral, they can help us to decide that is it a parallelogram. So the first rule, it says a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if you have two pairs of opposite sides congruent. Means if you have let's say you can say the lower side is congruent to the upper one and the left one is congruent to the right one. In that case you can say yes, it is a parallelogram. The second rule, it says if you have one pair of opposite sides is congruent and parallel. So if you will have just one pair of the sides that are not only congruent but they are also parallel, you can see here small arrows are drawn. That means that this pair of opposite sides is not only congruent but also parallel. The third rule is about the diagonals of any quadrilateral. If the diagonals will bisect each other, it will be a parallelogram. What is the meaning of bisect? Bisect means that this point, the point of intersection of the two diagonals, it will be the midpoint for this diagonal where my cursor is moving right now and for this diagonal, right? So that's why they put, for example, if this one is 4 centimeters, so this one will be 4 centimeter. If this one is, let's say, 3 centimeters, so this part will also be 3 centimeter. Okay, but both the diagonals, they will be congruent. It's not necessary. The only thing is that diagonals will be bisected. Okay, now let's discuss the case of the angles. A quadrilateral is a parallelogram if one angle is supplementary to both consecutive angles. What is the meaning of supplementary? Supplementary means that if you add those two angles, for example, if this one is 80 degrees and this one is let's say 100 degrees, so if you add these two consecutive angles and this one, if you add over here with this one, if it is giving you 180, means they are supplementary to each other, then you can say yes, it is a parallelogram. Hope it's clear for you. Remember, these two angles are, let me highlight for you, this angle and this angle, they are called 80 is consecutive to this 100 and it's consecutive to this 100, right? But if you will talk about only this 100 and this 100, so they are opposite to each other. So you can say, in other words, you can, or in easy words, you can say the neighboring angles, right? When we are thinking about any angle that is here, so this angle is opposite to 80. But if I talk about 80 with this 100 and with this 100, then these are consecutive angles, right? Okay, the second rule is about two pairs of opposite angles are congruent. It means that, as I told you, that this angle is opposite to this one. As you can see here, there's a single curve drawn. That means it shows that these two angles are congruent to each other. For example, let's say if this one is 110, so this one will also be 110. Also the other pair, which one has a double curve mentioned, that means this angle is congruent to this one. So for example, if this one is 70, so this one will also be 70. Clear? So these are the rules. By using these rules, we are going to check for all the questions. They can ask you the questions in different ways. Maybe they will ask you to check any given triangle, any given quadrilateral, that is this quadrilateral a parallelogram? Or maybe they will ask you, yes, it is a parallelogram, so use the rules to find any of the missing angles or missing sides. Is that clear? So like there will be two types of questions mainly. Clear? Now here they said try it 5a. It says is ABCD is a parallelogram. So for this one, I know that this angle is congruent to this angle. That means they are opposite to each other and they are congruent. So do I have any information about B and D? No, we are not given any information about B and D. So if I will think about this rule, this one, this rule that says that this opposite angles are congruent. So it means it's not enough information. So I cannot say that no, it is not a parallelogram. It is not a parallelogram. And what is the reason? we cannot say angle B and angle D are congruent, okay, because it's not mentioned that they are congruent, so we cannot decide that this is a parallelogram. Yes, in case they have mentioned over here that this angle is congruent to this one, in that case I can say yes, the triangle is a parallelogram. Now look at the second one. I can see here they put this symbol that means the opposite sides are congruent, means EH is congruent to FG. So I know that EH is congruent to FG. Okay, now I have to check that are these two parallel to each other. How can we check that they are parallel to each other? As you can see here, that there is a C shape like this, and this is the transversal, you can say. If I add 151 with 29, so what is the answer? The answer is becoming 180. That means the sum of these two co-interior angles is 180. So by using the converse rule of same side interior angles, we can say yes, this line is parallel to this one. Clear? So we can say that EH is also parallel to FG. So by looking at this rule, the second rule that says if you have one pair of opposite sides congruent and parallel, then the quadrilateral will be a parallelogram. So we can say yes, it is a parallelogram by this rule, right? Okay, let's see what do we have next. Now these questions are taken from the lesson. It says for question number 4 and 5, use parallelogram DEFG. That means we know that this diagram is the diagram of a parallelogram, and they want us to find the missing angles. Now what are the rules for the angles of the parallelogram? That the opposite angles are congruent. So if angle F is 115, how much will be angle D? It will be 115. No calculations, nothing, directly you can say, because it is opposite to angle F, so it will be 150. How can I find angle E now? Because we know from the rules of the angles of the parallelogram that the two angles, or you can say the consecutive angles, are supplementary. That means the sum of this one with this one will be 180. So if I want to find measurement of angle E, I can subtract 115 from 180 to know what will be the measure of angle E. So this angle will be 65 degrees. And similarly, although they didn't ask you, but they can ask you also about angle G. So it will be the same, like 65 degrees. Clear? Let's see what do we have next. In question number 6, they are saying that JKLM is a parallelogram. To find the missing length, now you have to find how long is JK. So let's check where is JK. This side is actually JK, right? But I can see here that they didn't give me any of the numbers, just they have given me some expressions with the variables. This expression is for JK, right? If I know what will be the value of X, I can substitute the value of X here to find how long is JK. So our first step is to find the value of JK. I know already it's a parallelogram. So what is the rule for the sides of the parallelogram? This is going to be step 1. Okay, I need to find the value of X. So 3X minus 2 will be equal to X plus 6, right? It's very obvious that if it's a parallelogram, the opposite sides will be congruent. So that's why you can say this one is equal to this one. Now move this X here and move this 2 to the other side. So we will have 3X minus X equals 6 plus 2. So this one will give me 8, and 3X minus X will be 2X. You can divide each side by 2. So it will give us X equals, let me write it over here for you, X equals 8 divided by 2 will be 4. So the value of X will be 4. Now how long is JK? JK is actually 3X minus 2. I can substitute the value of X, that is 4, and subtract from it 2, and final answer will be 10. So that means it's 10 units. Clear? Let's solve next question. Here is the next question. They are saying, it's by the way the continuation of the last slide. It says what is the value of JL. Here is JL, this line, let me highlight it for you. This is JL. So they want us to find how long is this line. Clearly you can see that this part of JL is 2x minus 1, right? So let's find first of all what will be 2x minus 1. If I substitute the value of x that we got here, it's 4. So you can put the value of x here, it's 4 minus 1, right? So it's going to be 4 times 2 will be 8 minus 1, it will be 7. So I can say that this part from J to A is 7. How much will be A to L? It will also be 7. What is the reason? Because they said it's a parallelogram, and for the parallelogram the two diagonals bisect each other. That means half of the diagonal is here and half of the diagonal is here. So if this part is 7, this part will also be 7, or you can put these symbols for you that this part is equal to this part. So we can say JL is equal to 7 plus 7, that is 14. Is that clear? Okay, let's solve the next question. Here is the next question. It says if AB is parallel to CD, that means this AB is parallel to CD. So for you you can make the arrows to show that these two lines are parallel to each other. Is ABCD is a parallelogram? Now because they are saying that these two sides are parallel to each other, then I will look at the measurements for these sides. So the measurements are also equal. It means that I can make use of this rule that says if you have a pair of sides, opposite sides, such that they are congruent and they are parallel, then the quadrilateral will be a parallelogram. So if you look at this diagram, it is having a pair of opposite sides with same measurements and also parallel to each other. For question number 8, yes, if a pair of opposite sides is parallel and congruent, it is a parallelogram. Which pair do we have? AB is parallel to CD and also AB is congruent to CD. So that's why it is a parallelogram. Clear? Here is the next question. It says, is each quadrilateral a parallelogram? Explain. Now look at this one. Yes, it's a parallelogram, very obvious. What is the reason? Because the opposite sides are congruent to each other. 16 is congruent to 16, 14 is congruent to 14. Now for this one, it means we check this one with the help of the rules that are for the sides. Now if you look at this quadrilateral, let's check, is it a parallelogram? So I have 3 consecutive angles. So if the consecutive angles become supplementary, then I will say yes, this quadrilateral is a parallelogram. But if they will not be supplementary, means their sum will not be 180, then I will say no, it is not a parallelogram. So let's try adding them. So 118, add it into 52, so the answer is becoming 170. So it's not a parallelogram because its sum is not because the angles are not supplementary to each other. Let me show you the answer. So here is the answer. You can check that yes, if both pair of opposite sides are congruent, it is a parallelogram. No, because 118 is not supplementary to both of its consecutive angles. Their sum is not becoming 180, so it's not a parallelogram for the B part. Here is the next question, question number 17. It says in each figure for what values of x and y the figure is a parallelogram. So let's check. If you want to check this one, because the opposite angles are, the opposite sides will be equal if it's a parallelogram. So it means first let's find the value of x. So in step 1 we will find the value of x, that says 3x plus 6 will be equal to 4 minus x, because we know that the opposite sides are congruent if it's a parallelogram. So we will have 3x plus x equals 4 minus 6. So it will give us 4x equals -2. Now divide each side by 4. So divide here by 4, divide here by 4, so it will give us x equals negative 0.5. Right? So this is going to be the value of x. Now in step 2, let's find the value of y. To find the value of y, let's take this, because this side will be equal to this one, as I told you that this one is equal to this one. So you can say 2y minus 3 is equal to y plus, let me write it over here for you. So it will be, it will be 2y minus y plus 2, right? It will be y plus 2. Let me do it with the blue color. So it's going to be 2y minus y equals 2 plus 3. How I got this? Because I moved this negative 3 over here, so it turned into positive 3. I moved this y over here, it turned into negative y. So 2y minus y will be 1y, that means it's only y, and here I will get y. So for x equals negative 0.5 and y equals 5, this quadrilateral will be a parallelogram. Is that clear? Now let's solve this one. Here we can use the rule of the angles. That means this angle will be equal to this one, means the yellow one will be equal to the yellow one, and the green one will be equal to the green one. So let's do it. So in step 1, you can say 4x minus 12 will be equal to 3x plus 5. Okay, move this 3x over here, so it will turn into negative 3x, and when you move 12 to the other side, it will turn into positive 12. So here we will have x, and here we will have 17. So it means that the value of x will be 17. Clear? To find the value of y, we will make the equation. What will it will be? 5y minus 6. It will be equal to 3y plus 46, right? So you can move now, you can bring this 3y over here, so it will turn into negative 3y. Move this 6 to the other side, it will turn into positive 6. So we will have over here 52, and this one will give us 2y. Now divide each side by 2, divide here by 2, divide here by 2. So we can cancel this y. Let me take another color. We can cancel this y 2 with this 2. So we will get y equals, it is going to be 26, right? So the value of y will be 26. How can I check my answer, that is this correct, the values that I got for x and y? You can substitute these values of x here and the y here. If your answers are like, if you are getting opposite angles congruent, that means your answer is correct. And the other way is you can add this green angle with the yellow ones, because these are the consecutive angles. So if their sum will be 180, then you can say yes, it's the values are correct. Okay, next we have they said given lengths shown, for what values of w and z is the figure a parallelogram? Same idea, because they have given us the diagonals now. That means, let me highlight for you that this one will be equal to this one, and this one will be equal to this one. I think the question is very easy. Better pause the video here and solve it on your own, and then play the video to check your answer. Here is the answer for both w and z. We can say 4w will be equal to 20 minus w. Move this w here, and it will give us like 5w equals 20. You can divide both sides by 5. It will give you w equals 4. And similarly for the z, you can say 3z minus 2 will be equal to 2z minus 2z plus 3. Move this 2 to this side and this 2z to this side, and then it will give you the value of z. That will be 5. Okay, let's see what do we have next. This is question number 25. It says in quadrilateral ABCD, angle A is congruent to angle C. Which additional statement can be used to show that this ABCD is a parallelogram? So you have to think about the rules of the parallelogram. For such questions, the best thing is to try to draw a parallelogram for you like this. Okay, now here we have A, and we have to write all their names in a sequence. Now they said angle A is congruent to angle C. What is the additional information that you need from here? I think now it's very obvious that you need angle D should be congruent to angle B, because it's given over here. So this is the correct option. Clear? Now here we have some challenge questions for you. Better pause the video here, solve this challenge question on your own, both the challenge questions, and then play the video to check your answers. Here are the answers for both the questions, because here they said what is the information that, which additional fact would prove that the quadrilateral WX YZ is a parallelogram. They gave us that these two opposite sides are congruent. So either I need that these two sides should become parallel. For that one I need the angles to be supplementary, like angle X will be supplementary with W, means the sum of these two angles is 180. It's not given here. So the only option that is left for me is that this side is congruent to this one, and it's given here, right? Okay, for question number 2, it was very simple. They were saying if this diagram is a parallelogram, so for what value of X it will be a parallelogram. So I took, because the opposite angles are always congruent for a parallelogram, so I took 5x minus 8 equals 4x plus 13. You could take either this one or this one. It's your choice. Okay. So what do we have next? Here is the next challenge question for you. It says in a quadrilateral PQRS, angle RQS is 25 degrees and PS is equal to QR. What measure of angle PSQ would confirm that PQRS is a parallelogram? So better pause the video here, try to solve it on your own, and then play the video to check your answer. So here is the solution for this challenge question. You can see from here, from the diagram, that first I drew the diagram, then I joined S with Q to get this angle RSQ. So they are saying this angle RSQ is 25 degrees. How much will be the value of PSQ, means how much will be this angle if this has to be a parallelogram. So if it's a parallelogram, these two lines, because this side is congruent to this one, so these two sides have to be parallel to each other. To make them parallel, if you look at this Z shape, this angle must be 25 degrees. To make this Z shape and to make these two sides parallel to each other, this angle has to be 25 degrees. So this is the answer for this angle. That angle PSQ is 25 degrees. That's all for this lesson. Hope you understand it.